Well, hi, my name's BA, and I'm a North Carolina artist. I typically do paintings and drawings, mainly interior spaces, kind of varying levels of abstraction. So I'm really interested in interiors and exteriors and how they relate to people without the people being in the spaces. So kind of how the spaces say things about humans and our experiences. Since I've been here, obviously there's so much history in these spaces at Black Mountain that I've just been kind of thinking about like the history and also what's happening right now in these buildings and how kind of the seams have been exposed of over time and how we're still making art in the same place that they were making art. I'll show you kind of some of the things I've been working on. I've been doing a little bit of collage, a lot of research and writing, and then some watercolor, a lot of drawing, a little bit of oil pastels. So I can show you over here. So these two are kind of more plein air paintings of just like really zoomed out views of Black Mountain. So this is going to be the studies building, and this is the barn that the artist built. And then I became really interested in these silos, so I did a more detailed drawing of that. I loved going over there in the mornings because I was in this shaded spot and it was just absolutely gorgeous and peaceful over there. And then this is also referencing the barn. It was kind of this window. I decided to do like a more zoomed in view. So I was really playing a lot with scale, kind of looking at like the broader picture and then kind of focusing in on certain elements that I thought were really interesting. I was really inspired by this musical chairs painting by Susan Weil. So kind of how she cut up and collaged all of these elements of chairs. I was interested in how the window kind of reflected that. This is a cut paper collage of the exterior of the building. It's like a really kind of zoomed in abstracted view of the studies building. And then I ended up, I don't know, I was really inspired by Josef Albers' like cut paper collages, and I'm in the Josef Albers studio, so it felt right to like experiment when I first got here. So this is the first thing I did. And then this is kind of all of these references, current and past, to the building, artists who came through here and their work. And so I'm gonna finish this collage. It's kind of a reference to this one where it's like the exterior of the barn, so windows. So I was thinking a lot about reflection and like the transfer of artist energy through time here. So this one's just starting. I'm still collaging into it. And then this last little piece is just a little quick rubbing of the porch. And the exhibition that's up in the museum is all about like the transfer. So that's something that kind of like from mother to daughter and kind of, so I was thinking a lot about transfers while I was here. I think a lot of times when I do residencies, it's mostly about experimenting and really like absorbing the experience. I spent the first couple days just researching, reading about all the artists, kind of seeing all these patterns between what they were making, how they were thinking, and then kind of just boiling down like a couple of ideas that I was then able to start making work with. Again, it's kind of an eerie thing to walk into like a brand new empty studio and be like, what am I gonna make? But I think like the research is like a really grounding point for me because I can like start to like really boil down some ideas and then from there experiment and then from there kind of just move along. I think it's really interesting to me to look back at the photos from so long ago and see how the landscape has changed so drastically, and then also how the building has changed so drastically. I think that's something that I'm really interested in. Obviously, like, it's just so peaceful to like be by the lake and like walk around it and stuff, but like to physically sit on the other side of the lake. There were so many artists that did kind of a similar thing where it was a distance view of the studies building, and just to see how the landscape itself has changed so much, that has been really interesting. So I'm kind of just a lot of referencing a lot of time, like, and how things have changed. That's really fascinating to me in this particular space.
So hello, I'm Monica Lopez de Victoria, and I have had the pleasure of working in the Quiet House for the past week. And so here are some of my videos and my projection mapping that I've been playing with. I'm multimedia, so sometimes I'm sketching, sometimes I'm collaging, sometimes I'm painting, sometimes I'm digitally manipulating things, sometimes walking through the forest, sometimes projection mapping, and just gathering all sorts of ideas and reading and then digesting. I've been reading a bunch about different people that were here, and I really like to absorb their energy, the spaces that they've been in, and the ideas that have flowed through this campus. And Shawinski is someone that I've been very interested in, as well as John Cage and Merce Cunningham. I was able to do the residency at the Bauhaus a few years back, and I was living in Oscar Schlemmer's house, master house, and so I thought it was just a natural progression to look into Shawinski's work and just some of the ideas that continued here. And so I'm very excited to still be looking into the body of work that these people created, and a lot of base ideas of emotional volume, which I learned about with Schlemmer's theories of movement and in space. And so just thinking about like human layers and emotional volume and what that looks like, you know, as we overlap and as we kind of go through spaces and even mapping out spaces and just drawing the unseen things around us. That's very much what I'm interested in, and putting that in different places. So whether it be drawing, painting, or multimedia, and you know, kind of like mapping out energy spaces as well as physical spaces, as well as creative idea spaces. I've done a lot of work in the past that looks a little more abstract, like these. I was able to kind of work more on this one, and it's overlapping layers. So the layers of the unseen, whatever that might be at the moment, different people have different kind of ways that comes out. And so this is just a physical representation of that. So like, let's say, you know, someone is more triangular, angular, and then someone else is more soft and flowy and circular. But the overlaps, what does that create? It's like an optical illusion. I wasn't satisfied with it being mostly abstract, so I wanted to catch the feeling of this place. So I started painting outside, and I sat on the dock, and this is not a done piece at all yet, but I wanted to get back into drawing. So this is kind of starting to do this more traditional kind of landscape drawing, but with this abstraction on top of it as this feeling. I was very inspired when I saw a ton of butterflies here, and to me, butterflies have been in my whole life. I feel like these types of animals can sense a lot of things also that we don't see, and are very light, and they move with the wind. And so some of the flowers were blooming, and it was only a few days while we were here, and I was able to catch a few moments of those butterflies. and some were just by the lake, and they were just congregating and flying around. It was magical. I couldn't even believe what I was seeing. So I had to grab her camera and I ran out there and I just started shooting. I've never seen anything like this in person, so it was very inspiring, and I was able to shoot it, capture it, and here's some of the footage. I decided to projection map the fireplace because of the specialness of the quiet house. So over on the right side is Alex Green, and he is looking in onto the work that he made right there, but he's giving me advice. I have a burning coconut, and that's a little bit of my past. I'm a few different types of backgrounds, so I am Puerto Rican as well as Swedish, German, American. And so I'm always seeing things in many ways at the same time. And so that's hard to visualize at times. So a lot of my work is working through that. And so I've got the burning coconut as our fire. And then also these two different mountains of water. And they are going in opposite directions because that's how I feel quite often at the same time. And if you want to turn around, you can see what kind of projection mapping looks like on the screen. Yes, so here basically I'm working with the edges, and so kind of mapping it out. And like, for example, if I wanted to put something on top of the eagle that I can put in place, let's say that, but see how the edges are different. I've been learning how to work with these edges. Being multicultural, I see things at the same time from both of my lineages, and even I've learned from my family, both sides kind of, it starts from a different place in the body. And my Puerto Rican side, they are led by the heart first, I'd say, and then the mind comes in. And then my mother's side, which is the more Scandinavian side, starts with here and leads with that before this comes in. And so thinking about how those two places can come together and how we're always kind of navigating the two, sometimes more one and more the other. And I think as artists, we've learned to, interpret both of those at the same time. And it's been a journey personally to figure out how to work through all of that. It's a lot, but there's a poetry in there, and it's a geometry, and so I see also that geometry visually, and so I kind of try to map it out.
I'm Janira Vasepo, and I've been an artist in residence this spring, and it's been quite the lovely time. So my work relates a lot to native plants and species of lands that I visit, or that I'm from, or that I live in. So this week I focused on native plants and species of North Carolina. I'm very inspired by the curiosity and experimentation of Black Mountain College, and Ruth Asawa was she's kind of my guiding light. After finding out about her story, I was extremely inspired for what she did and the impact she had in the arts community in her town in San Francisco. So aside from being an artist, I'm also a teaching artist, and that's a big part of my practice. I love to make sure that the arts are accessible to everyone. I've been studying mokuhanga for 6 years now. In 2019, I went to the school in Kyoto called International School of Mokuhanga, which was a 2-month study program with my teacher, Richard Steiner. So because I'm self-taught, I really wanted a foundation in printmaking. And I was looking into courses in the US or in Jaipur, India, because I also work with textiles. But I found Richard Steiner with Japanese woodblock printmaking specifically, and it was on paper, and the materials are natural, organic, non-toxic, so that was really, really attractive to me at the time. And the way I've learned it has been very orderly, just because that's how I was taught. But this week I was able to loosen up and experiment and not follow the rules that I was taught to a T, which really helps me make these creative woodblock prints during this time. And so my wood blocks are right here, I'll show you. And so my process is a lot of drawing, and then I trace it. I transfer it to the wood block, and then I start carving, and that's when I start printing. And so these lines, these registration lines are called a kento, and I actually just didn't use my kento at all this time, which is a big no-no in what I've learned, but I was able to really be fluid with my prints and move my imagery around the paper that I brought over from Echizen, which is a paper making village in Japan, and this paper is gorgeous. I'm totally obsessed with it, and you can kind of see the paper and how the fibers are really, really strong and beautiful. So I wanted to put this on the window just to kind of to see that beautiful texture of the paper and how it's so important to printmaking in this specific medium. Because it's spring, everything was thriving and blooming. The dogwood blossoms were popping off, they were gorgeous. So I started obsessively drawing dogwood blossoms, which eventually became part of my final works. I then went on a hike on the mountain and found Rose Bay rhododendron, and that was also, or it is still in bloom. Then I moved on to butterflies, which we were covered in butterflies earlier before it got cold again. And so we have the spice bush swallowtail and the eastern tiger swallowtail, I believe. And there is some prints I actually made last night, which with paper that I made myself. And paper making is hard, so this is the only paper I've ever made or attempted to make with the help of a wonderful teacher, but these are the prints I pulled last night, and I incorporated all the species onto these 3 final prints. I started with small works and a lot of color theories, but also I would start out my mornings with cyanotypes. Cyanotype is a good medium to dive in. And these are my plants I collected, which I'm really proud of. But I've been also working on referencing black and white photos by Hazel Larson Archer, and we'll see how it turn out. I've been playing with self-portraiture a little bit. I found this picture of Ray Johnson sitting at his desk, and it completely matched the peaks on through that window. So I reenacted that one, hoping that it comes out. I took a picture of the staircase, very Bauhaus, beautiful black and white, and Ray Johnson photo as well, down the hallway. There's a few more that I still want to recreate, but we'll see how it goes. Fingers crossed I loaded my film correctly. I'm not a photographer. But sometimes I like to play with it. So actually, my work started as textile art, and eventually I'm now working with painting, but the fibers in this paper is actually really, really strong. It's hard to tear, And it's almost like fabric too. When you pull it, you can't really, it's so strong you can't tear it. I mean, so many things in our life are made out of paper, and I don't think we realize how vital paper is to a functioning world. So I'm interested in paper, but also light, and light through paper, light through textiles. Yeah, I don't know exactly where it's leading me to, but I think something will happen. We'll see. I mean, that's how I started with textile. It became something where I bought drop cloths from Home Depot, and I started block printing on it with black ink. And then I was like, oh, this can be a tapestry or a wall hanging. And I just repeated all my patterns, and I got inspiration from Killam rugs and also the Taino people of Puerto Rico, where I'm from. So it's just a lot of like new wonder, just always questioning like what can be. It might not be anything, but at least you're just there. You're just being, I don't know, a human, just wondering. So yeah.